The crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across 500 faces. Champagne flutes clinked like delicate bells. The annual Tech Innovation Gala glittered with billion-dollar smiles and designer gowns that cost more than most people's cars. Marcus Whitmore owned the room. His emerald green suit jacket practically screamed wealth. He moved through the crowd like a king inspecting subjects, handshakes precise and cold. Dr. Amara St. James stood near the bar, her ivory dress elegant and understated. She held her glass but hadn't sipped. Her dark eyes tracked Marcus across the marble floor. He saw her, changed direction, walked straight toward her with that signature half-smile. Dr. St. James. His voice carried just enough volume for nearby guests to hear. "Still here, I see." She met his gaze. "Still here, Mr. Whitmore." He leaned closer. The expensive cologne couldn't mask the contempt underneath. "About Monday's announcement. I hope there are no hard feelings." Her fingers tightened on the glass stem. "Of course not." "Good. Because we value diversity at Whitmore Tech." He touched her shoulder, squeezed. "But sometimes we need to remember." His breath was warm against her ear. 3 words delivered like a verdict. "Know your place." The conversations around them died. Heads turned. Someone's champagne glass paused halfway to painted lips. Marcus stepped back, smile widening. He raised his glass to the room. To her, Amara didn't move, didn't blink. Her face remained perfectly composed, gracious even. But something shifted behind her eyes. Something cold and calculating and absolutely lethal. She smiled back, raised her glass, took one delicate sip. Marcus turned away, already forgetting her, moving toward his next conquest. Amara set down her champagne. Her hand was steady now, perfectly steady. She'd waited 3 years for this moment, for him to finally, fatally underestimate her one last time. The room resumed its chatter. The music swelled. Nobody noticed Amara slip toward the exit. Nobody saw the phone she pulled from her clutch, the encrypted message she typed with surgical precision. 6 hours earlier, Amara had stood in her small apartment in Brooklyn. The space was modest for someone with her credentials. 1 bedroom, exposed brick, plants dying slowly on the windowsill despite her best efforts. The apartment told lies. It suggested struggle, humility, someone barely holding on. The truth lived in the locked bedroom. 3 monitors, 2 encrypted servers, file cabinets stuffed with 3 years of documents, transaction records, emails printed and highlighted in yellow and red. Dr. Amara St. James wasn't struggling. She was hunting Stanford MBA with honors, former hedge fund analyst who'd predicted the 2008 crash 6 months early. Nobody listened. She'd lost everything anyway when the markets collapsed. Her savings, her job, her fiancé who left when the money disappeared. She rebuilt herself from ash, took a position at Whitmore Tech 5 years ago, started as a senior analyst, proved her worth quarterly, climbed to VP of Innovation through merit, precision, and 60-hour work weeks. Marcus Whitmore barely noticed her. She was furniture to him. Useful furniture that generated profit and quarterly reports that made shareholders smile. She preferred it that way. Invisible meant access. Access meant information. The gala tonight was supposed to be her coronation. Chief Innovation Officer. The promotion she'd earned. The position that would make her the first black woman in Whitmore Tech's C-suite. She'd known for 2 weeks it wouldn't happen. Marcus had other plans. His nephew Tyler, fresh from Yale with a degree in business and a trust fund where his spine should be, would get the role instead. Amara had known. She'd prepared. She checked her reflection before leaving. The ivory dress was perfect. Expensive but not showy. Professional but feminine enough to be dismissed. She wore her mother's pearl earrings, small and elegant. Her mother, civil rights attorney, fighter, loser of battles but never of dignity. Amara touched the pearls. "Not tonight, Mama," she whispered. "Tonight we win." She grabbed her clutch. Inside, phone, lipstick, and a thumb drive containing 847 documented instances of corporate fraud. The taxi ride to Manhattan took 40 minutes. Amara spent them breathing slowly, centering herself. The girl who'd lost everything in 2008 was gone. The woman who remained knew exactly what she was doing. The announcement came at 9:47 p.m. Marcus took the stage between the silent auction and dessert. Spotlight found him. He basked in it like a lizard in sun. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for celebrating innovation with us tonight." His voice boomed through speakers. Whitmore Tech has always been about vision, about leadership, about finding the right people for the right roles. Amara stood in the back. She'd positioned herself near the exit deliberately. "Tonight I'm thrilled to announce our new Chief Innovation Officer." Marcus paused for effect. The room leaned forward. "My nephew, Tyler Whitmore, will be joining our executive team." Applause erupted. Polite expected hollow. Tyler bounded onto stage. 23 years old frat boy smile. Royal blue suit that screamed family money. He shook his uncle's hand. Waved to the crowd like a politician. "Tyler brings fresh perspective," Marcus continued. "New energy. The kind of instinct you can't teach." His eyes found Amara in the crowd. Held her gaze. "Leadership requires certain innate qualities. Presence, authority, vision." The implication hung in the air like smoke. Someone near Amara whispered, "What about Dr. St. James? Wasn't she supposed to—" "Shh." Marcus kept talking. "We're committed to diversity. Of course, Dr. St. James will continue her excellent work as VP. We value her contributions." Value. Contributions. The words tasted like ash even from across the room. The speech ended. More applause. Tyler grinned and descended into a crowd of congratulations. Amara stood perfectly still. Around her, colleagues avoided eye contact. Some looked embarrassed. Others looked relieved it wasn't them. Marcus worked the room, came toward her section. She could leave. Should leave. She stayed. He reached her. That same poisonous smile. "Amara, there you are. Congratulations on your nephew's appointment. Thank you. I hope you understand. It's about optics. Board dynamics. Nothing personal?" Of course, he touched her shoulder again, squeezed. The gesture looked friendly from a distance. Up close it was possession. Dominance, warning, "You're a smart woman. You know how these things work." He leaned closer. Whispered loud enough for 3 nearby executives to hear. "Know your place." The executives shifted, uncomfortable. Nobody spoke. Marcus pulled back, winked, walked away. Amara stood frozen. Her face betrayed nothing. Inside, every calculation she'd made over 3 years crystallized into perfect clarity. She'd given him every chance to be decent, every opportunity to do the right thing. He'd chosen this. The bathroom was all white marble and gold fixtures. Amara locked herself in the largest stall, pressed her back against the cold wall. Her hands shook. She stared at them like they belonged to someone else. Outside, muffled music played. Laughter filtered through the walls. The gala continued without her, around her despite her. She breathed in slowly, out slowly. Her mother's voice echoed from memory. "Let them see weakness. Let them think they've won. Then strike when they've forgotten you're dangerous." Amara closed her eyes. Saw her mother in that tiny office, fighting a developer who'd bribed half the city council. Saw her mother lose. Saw the exhaustion that followed. The slow death of spirit before body. "I'm not you, Mama," Amara whispered. "I learned from you." She opened her clutch. Pulled out her phone. The encrypted app opened with her thumbprint. One message to her contact at the SEC. One message to the investigative journalist who'd been waiting 3 years for this story. One message to Marcus's own CFO, the one who'd been secretly copying files for her for 18 months in exchange for immunity. Her fingers steadied. She typed 3 messages, precise, clinical, devastating. The first message: "He just committed assault in front of witnesses. I'm ready to proceed." The second: "Deploy the story. All sources confirmed. Publication tomorrow." The third: "Activate the SEC filing. Full documentation attached. She hit send on all three. Somewhere in Manhattan, phones lit up. Dominoes began to fall. Amara stood. Checked her reflection. Fixed her lipstick. Her mother's pearls caught the light. She unlocked the stall. Walked to the sink. Washed her hands with expensive soap. In the mirror, Dr. Amara St. James looked back. Composed, professional, lethal. She smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Time to return to the gala. 20 years earlier, young Amara had sat in her mother's law office after school. The space smelled like old books and coffee and determination. Her mother, Claudia St. James, worked late every night. Civil rights cases paid poorly. Justice didn't come with billable hours. "Mama, why do you keep fighting Mr. Harrison?" Amara asked. She was 12, already too smart for comfort. Claudia looked up from case files. Her eyes were tired but fierce. "Because he's wrong, baby. But he has more money, more lawyers. Money isn't power. Information is power. Documentation is power." Claudia tapped the files. "Every transaction, every bribe, every lie. I document it all." Mr. Harrison was a real estate developer. He'd displaced 300 families to build luxury condos. Used shell companies to hide profits. Bribed city officials. Claudia had proof. All of it she lost anyway. Harrison's lawyers buried her in motions. Delayed, appealed. Exhausted her resources. Amara watched her mother spend their savings fighting. Watched her take on debt. Watched her refuse to quit even when quitting was the sane choice. The case ended with a settlement. Harrison paid a fine that meant nothing to him. The family stayed displaced. Claudia aged 10 years in 6 months. "I'm sorry, Mama," Amara said the night the settlement was announced. "Don't be sorry. Be smarter." Claudia gripped her daughter's shoulders. "I fought in courts. You'll be smarter. You'll fight where the real power lives." "Where's that?" "Boardrooms, markets, banks." Claudia's smile was bitter. "Control the money, you control everything. Learn that world, master it. Then burn it down from inside when it deserves burning." Claudia died when Amara was 24. Heart attack. Officially, Amara knew better. Her mother had died of exhaustion. Of fighting a system designed to crush people like them. At the funeral, Amara made a promise over the coffin. She would master the system. She would play their game better than they did. She would wait for the perfect moment. Then she would strike Stanford MBA hedge fund. Whitmore Tech. Every step calculated. Every move precise. 3 years of documenting Marcus's crimes. Shell companies in the Caymans. Offshore accounts. Embezzlement disguised as consulting fees. Contracts awarded to fake companies that existed only on paper. T7 instances. Every transaction traced. Every email saved. Every lie documented. Amara had learned from her mother's mistakes. Don't fight in courts where they control the judges. Don't fight in public where they control the narrative. Fight in the shadows. Build your case. Wait for them to hand you the perfect moment. Tonight, Marcus had handed it to her. 2:15 a.m. Amara sat at her monitors. The gala dress was replaced by leggings and an old Stanford sweatshirt. The servers hummed quietly. 3 years of work glowed across 3 screens. She opened the main file. Transaction log MW Whitmore Dodius. Comprehensive.xlsx. 847 rows of documented fraud. Each row linked to supporting documents. Bank transfers. Email chains. Shell company registrations. Marcus had been stealing for 7 years. Small amounts at first. Then larger. Then massive $23 million. That's what she'd traced. Gone from company accounts into offshore structures. Fake consulting contracts. Inflated vendor invoices. Real estate deals with shell buyers. The CFO, David Chen, had helped her document everything. Marcus had bullied David for years, called him slurs, threatened his job. When Amara approached David 18 months ago, he'd wept with relief that someone was finally listening. Together, they'd built the case. Meticulous, airtight, prosecutable. Amara had copies of everything. encrypted backups on 3 continents, thumb drives in safe deposit boxes, cloud storage under fake names. She'd learned from her mother. Document everything. Assume they'll try to destroy evidence. Her phone buzzed. Text from David. SEC confirmed. Investigation opens Monday. They're moving fast. Another text. From the journalist. Story goes live at 6 a.m. It's bulletproof. Thank you for trusting me. Another. From her contact at the SEC. We've been watching Whitmore for 2 years. Your evidence fills every gap. This is career-making work. For both of us. Amara leaned back, stared at the ceiling. Exhaustion pulled at her bones. She'd done it. The trap was set. The evidence was filed. The story would break in 4 hours. By Monday morning, Marcus Whitmore would be facing federal investigators. She thought about his face tonight. That smug smile. That shoulder squeeze. Know your place. I do know my place, Amara whispered to the empty apartment. And soon you'll know yours. She closed the files. Shut down the monitors. Tomorrow would be chaos. Tonight she needed sleep. Just a few hours. She lay down but couldn't close her eyes. Adrenaline coursed through her veins. Her heart hammered. This was it. The moment 3 years of patience had been building toward. Her mother's briefcase sat in the corner. Old leather-worn handle. Amara had kept it after the funeral. She got up. Opened it. Inside her mother's old business cards, legal pads, and a note written in Claudia's handwriting. Some fights take time. Be patient. Be precise. When you strike, make it count. I love you. Make them pay. Amara folded the note, put it in her pocket, returned to bed. She slept for 3 hours, dreamless, deep. She woke to her phone exploding with notifications. Monday morning. 8:30 a.m. Amara walked through Whitmore Tech's glass doors like nothing had changed. The receptionist stared. Dr. St. James, Mr. Whitmore wants to see you immediately. Of course, the elevator ride up 15 floors felt longer than usual. Her heels clicked on marble. Her dusty rose blazer was perfectly pressed. She carried a single folder. Inside one document, just one. Marcus's office occupied the entire top floor, floor-to-ceiling windows. Manhattan spread out like a kingdom below. He stood at the windows, didn't turn when she entered, closed the door. She did sit. She remained standing. He finally turned. His face was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that comes before violence. I underestimated you. He walked to his desk, sat, gestured to the chair across from him. Amara sat, crossed her legs, waited. The SEC called me this morning, before I'd finished my coffee. He smiled. It looked like a wound. Interesting way to start a Monday. I imagine so. You've been busy. 3 years, apparently. That's impressive patience. Thank you. He leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to withdraw your complaint. Tell the SEC you made a mistake. Apologize. No. I'll give you $10 million offshore untraceable. No. His jaw tightened. $20 million. Amara opened her folder, placed a single sheet on his desk. Shell Company registration for Caribbean Holdings, LLC. Registered to your mother's maiden name. Funded by Whitmore Tech accounts disguised as vendor payments. His hand shook as he picked up the paper. Where did you get this? I have 847 more documents like this. The SEC has them all now. So does the Financial Times. Their story published 2 hours ago. Marcus stood, walked to the windows. His reflection looked older suddenly. Smaller. You're bluffing. You're trying to scare me into negotiating. I'm not negotiating, Mr. Whitmore. I'm informing you. He laughed, sharp, bitter. You think you've won. You haven't. I have the best lawyers in the country. They'll bury this, perhaps, but your board meets tomorrow. Emergency session. I hear they're unhappy. The board loves me. The board loves profit. This scandal will cost them billions in stock value. You've become a liability. Marcus turned. His eyes were pure rage now. I'll destroy you. Your reputation, your career, your life. They'll make sure you never work again. Amara stood, picked up her folder. "You're welcome to try." She walked to the door, paused, turned back. "Know your place, Mr. Whitmore." She left him standing in his kingdom of glass and steel. Left him with his rage and his fear and his suddenly uncertain future. The elevator descended. Amara's heart pounded. Her hands shook. She'd done it. Confronted him. Stood in his office and showed him the knife before she twisted it. For a moment, walking through the lobby, she felt victorious. That feeling lasted exactly 4 hours, 1 p.m. Security appeared at Amara's desk. 2 guards, professional, apologetic but firm. "Dr. St. James, we need you to come with us." Heads turned. Colleagues pretended not to stare. "What's happening?" "Please collect your personal items. You're being escorted from the building." "On whose authority?" "Mr. Whitmore's, effective immediately." Her hands froze over her keyboard. "I see." They watched while she packed photos, coffee mug, a plant, her mother's briefcase. The walk through the office was silent. 50 employees watched her escorted out like a criminal. Nobody spoke. Nobody met her eyes. The lobby. The street. Suddenly she was outside with a cardboard box and nowhere to go. Her phone buzzed. Company email access denied. Building credentials revoked. Health insurance suspended pending investigation. Text from David Chen. "I'm sorry. Marcus threatened my family. I had to recant everything." Another text. Anonymous. "You thought you could take him down. You're nothing. He's everything." She stood on the sidewalk. Manhattan flowed around her. Taxis, pedestrians, the city that never cared. Her phone rang. "The journalist," she answered. "Amara, I'm sorry. My editor killed the story. Legal pressure from Whitmore's attorneys. We can't publish without corroboration." "David was my corroboration." David recanted. "Said you coerced him." "I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do." The call ended. Another call. The SEC contact. "Dr. St. James, we need to talk. There are some irregularities with your filing. Mr. Chen claims you fabricated documents. We'll need to investigate your claims more thoroughly." "He's lying. That's what investigations determine." "Don't leave the city." The call ended. Amara stood there, box in her arms. World collapsing. By evening, she was trending on social media. Not as a hero, as a villain. Marcus's PR team had worked fast. Leaked stories painted her as unstable, vindictive. A disgruntled employee fabricating accusations. Former colleagues texted tepid sympathies, then stopped responding. LinkedIn showed her profile flagged for investigation. News outlets ran Marcus's narrative unchallenged. She walked home. 46 blocks. Box getting heavier with each step. Her apartment felt smaller, darker. The servers hummed, but the evidence meant nothing if nobody would listen. She set down the box. Sat on the floor, stared at the wall, everything she'd built. Gone, everything she'd planned, unraveling. Marcus had won. He'd turned her victory into her destruction within hours. Her phone lay silent now. Nobody calling. Nobody helping. She was alone. 3 days passed. Amara didn't leave her apartment. The silence was suffocating. No calls, no emails. The world had moved on without her. She sat on the floor, surrounded by printouts. Evidence that meant nothing now. David had recanted. The SEC had backed off. The journalist had gone silent. Marcus had won by doing what powerful men always do. He'd weaponized his credibility against hers. His word against hers. Billionaire against disgruntled employee. The narrative wrote itself. Her phone showed 7 missed calls from her brother. She couldn't answer. Couldn't explain how she'd destroyed everything. Outside her window, Brooklyn hummed with life. Inside, Amara sat in darkness. Her mother's briefcase leaned against the wall. She stared at it. Thought about her mother's final case. The one she'd lost. The exhaustion that had killed her. "I'm sorry, Mama," Amara whispered. "I tried." She pulled the briefcase closer. Opened it. The note was still inside. "Some fights take time. Be patient. Be precise. When you strike, make it count." Amara read it again. And again, when you strike, make it count, she'd struck. But had she struck hard enough, or had she struck too early? Her mind cleared slightly. She stood, walked to her monitors. They'd been dark for 3 days. She powered them on. The files were still there. All 847 instances. David had recanted, but the documents existed independently of David. She'd made copies. Multiple copies. Encrypted backups. Marcus thought he'd won. He'd neutralized her witnesses, destroyed her reputation. But he'd made one mistake. He'd assumed she needed permission to fight. She didn't need the SEC, didn't need journalists, didn't need David. She needed strategy, patience, and one more move he wouldn't see coming. Amara opened her encrypted email, scrolled through contacts, found one name she'd been saving for exactly this moment. She typed a message, her fingers steady now. The dam hadn't broken. It had just been waiting for the right pressure point. The coffee shop in Queens was anonymous and perfect. Amara arrived first, sat in the back corner. At precisely 3 p.m., Rebecca Zhao walked in, former federal prosecutor, current partner at the city's most aggressive litigation firm, reputation for destroying corporate criminals. They'd met at a conference 2 years ago, stayed in touch. Rebecca had told Amara once, "If you ever need someone who doesn't care about making enemies, call me." Amara had called. Rebecca sat down. Expensive suit, blush pink blouse, eyes like a hawk. "I read about your situation. Marcus Whitmore is claiming you fabricated everything." "I didn't. I know you didn't. I've been investigating Whitmore independently for 6 months. Different case. Investor fraud." Rebecca smiled. "Your evidence fills gaps I couldn't fill alone." Amara leaned forward. David Chen recanted. "My credibility is destroyed. David Chen is terrified. That's different from lying. I can get him back." Rebecca pulled out a tablet. "I represent 3 of Marcus's investors. They've lost money. They want answers. Your documents give me leverage to depose Marcus under oath." The SEC dropped the investigation. Federal SEC did. State Attorney General didn't. I spoke with them this morning. They're very interested in your evidence. Amara felt something shift. Hope, fragile but real. "I have encrypted backups. Everything David recanted, plus documents David never saw." "Good, here's what we do. You come work for my firm, temporarily, as a forensic consultant. That gives you legal cover. Your testimony becomes work product, protected. Marcus will sue. Let him. Discovery works both ways. He sues, I get to depose everyone in his company." Rebecca's smile sharpened. "I don't lose, Dr. St. James, and I really don't like racist billionaires." Amara pulled out a thumb drive. "Everything's here. Transaction logs, shell company documents, email chains Marcus doesn't know I copied." Rebecca took it. "There's more. 3 former Whitmore employees contacted me yesterday. Women of color, all with stories about Marcus, discrimination, harassment, retaliation. They're ready to testify, but why now? Because you stood up. They saw you try. They saw him destroy you. It pissed them off." Rebecca stood. "Get ready, Dr. St. James. We're going to war. And this time we're fighting on ground he doesn't control." Amara walked out of that coffee shop different than she'd walked in. Broken pieces reassembling into something harder, sharper. Marcus thought he'd buried her. He'd just given her time to dig deeper trenches. The emergency board meeting happened 14 days later. Whitmore Tech's boardroom. 23 members. Cameras everywhere because Rebecca had insisted on recording. Marcus sat at the head of the table, confident, flanked by 4 lawyers in matching navy suits. Amara entered with Rebecca. 3 other women followed. Former employees, witnesses. Marcus's smile faltered. "This is a closed board meeting. You're no longer employed here." Rebecca set down her briefcase. "Dr. St. James is here as my forensic consultant. I represent investors who've filed suit against you for fraud. We have subpoena power. The board invited us." The board chairman, an older white man in gold-rimmed glasses, nodded uncomfortably. Let's hear what they have to say. Rebecca connected her laptop to the projector. The first slide appeared. Caribbean Holdings LLC, Shell Company registration, Marcus's mother's maiden name. This company received $4.2 million from Whitmore Tech accounts over 3 years. It exists only on paper. Marcus leaned forward. That's been investigated. Dr. St. James fabricated those documents. No, Rebecca clicked. Email from Marcus to David Chen appeared. Full headers. Metadata intact. This email from your account instructs your CFO to approve payment to Caribbean Holdings. Timestamp. IP address. Everything authenticated by independent forensics. The board members leaned forward. Murmuring started. Marcus's lawyer stood. My client denies sending that email. His account was hacked. Rebecca smiled. By whom? When? Where's your evidence of hacking? We have cybersecurity logs showing no breach. She clicked again. Here's another email. And another. 23 emails total. All authenticated. Another click. Bank records appeared. Wire transfers. Caribbean Holdings to personal accounts in Marcus Whitmore's name. $6.7 million transferred. Marcus's face drained of color. That's a different company. Not mine. Same tax ID number as your personal accounts. Confirmed by the IRS. Rebecca's voice was surgical. We've traced 23 shell companies. All connected to you. Total embezzlement, $23.4 million. The room erupted. Board members shouted questions. Marcus's lawyers huddled. Rebecca held up her hand. There's more. These 3 women worked for Whitmore Tech. All were fired after rejecting Marcus's advances or reporting discrimination. The first woman stood. Her voice shook but held. He told me I'd gotten my job because of affirmative action. Said I should be grateful. When I reported him to HR, I was fired for performance issues 2 weeks later. The second woman. He called me sweetheart in every meeting. Touched my back, my shoulder. When I asked him to stop, he said I was too sensitive. I was fired within a month. The third woman. He told me I'd never advance because customers prefer traditional American leaders. When I pushed back, he had security escort me out. The board chairman's face was ashen. Mr. Whitmore, these are serious allegations. Marcus stood, slammed his hand on the table. This is a witch hunt, a coordinated attack by someone I tried to help. I gave Dr. St. James opportunities. She's bitter about not getting a promotion she wasn't qualified for. Amara stood. Her voice was calm, deadly calm. I was qualified. Stanford MBA. 7 years of exemplary performance reviews. Revenue generation that saved this company twice. But you couldn't see past my skin color. That's not true. You told me to know my place. In front of witnesses. At the gala. It's on video. Rebecca clicked. Security footage appeared. Marcus leaning close. Amara's face. The unmistakable words on his lips even without audio. The room went silent. Rebecca continued. The State Attorney General has opened a criminal investigation. The SEC is reconsidering their case based on new evidence. And these investors are filing a class action lawsuit that will likely bankrupt this company unless Mr. Whitmore resigns immediately. Marcus's lead lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. The board chairman stood. Mr. Whitmore, I think it's best if you step outside while the board deliberates. This is my company. It's the shareholders' company. You're an employee. Please step outside. Marcus looked around the table. Every face avoided his gaze. 23 board members. Not one met his eyes. His kingdom crumbled in silence. He walked out. Shoulders rigid. Hands clenched. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like thunder. 3 months later, Amara stood in the same boardroom. Different circumstances. Marcus Whitmore was in federal custody awaiting trial. Charges: wire fraud, embezzlement, securities fraud. His assets frozen. His reputation destroyed. The board had appointed Amara interim CEO while they searched for permanent leadership. She'd restructured everything. brought in new executives, implemented transparency protocols, created an independent ethics board. The company's stock had recovered, slowly. Trust took time to rebuild. David Chen sat across from her now. He'd returned after Rebecca negotiated immunity for his testimony. His eyes were still apologetic. "I'm sorry I recanted," he said quietly. "He threatened my family. I know." "I understand." Amara did understand. Fear made people break. "You came back. That's what matters." The 3 women who testified had been offered settlements. All 3 declined money. They wanted only acknowledgement, apologies, policy changes. Amara had given them all 3. Plus jobs, if they wanted them. 2 accepted. The journalist who'd killed the story called to apologize. His editor had been pressured, he explained. It wasn't his choice. "I know," Amara had said. "The system protects itself." Her mother's briefcase sat on her new desk. Larger office. Better view. She kept it there as a reminder. Some fights take time. She'd learned patience from losing everything in 2008, learned strategy from her mother's failures, learned ruthlessness from Marcus's cruelty. The combination made her dangerous in ways Marcus never understood. Her brother called that evening. "I'm proud of you, sis. It's not over. The trial is still coming. You've already won. He's in a cell. You're in his chair." Amara looked around the office. Glass and steel and power. The view Marcus used to own. "Know your place," she whispered. Then smiled. She did know her place. It was here. It had always been here. She just had to wait for Marcus to fall far enough to see it. 1 year after the gala, Amara returned to the same venue, the annual Tech Innovation Gala. But now she was the keynote speaker. 500 faces looked up at her. Some were the same people who'd watched Marcus humiliate her. Others were new, younger, more diverse. She wore emerald green, her mother's pearls. Confidence she'd earned through fire. "A year ago I stood in this room differently," she began. "I stood as someone told to know her place." Silence. Uncomfortable shifting. "I did know my place. I knew I belonged in rooms where decisions were made, where power lived, where justice could be served." She paused. "The man who told me otherwise is now facing 30 years in prison." No one applauded. This wasn't a moment for applause. I'm not telling this story for revenge. I'm telling it because too many of us are told we don't belong, that we should be grateful for scraps. That ambition is arrogance when it comes from certain faces. She looked across the crowd, saw young women of color leaning forward. "Listening, here's what I learned. Patience isn't weakness, it's strategy. Documentation isn't paranoia, it's power. And knowing your place doesn't mean accepting where others put you. It means understanding your value and refusing to diminish it." She clicked to her final slide, her mother's photograph. Claudia St. James at her desk, surrounded by files, looking tired but fierce. "My mother fought battles in courtrooms. She lost most of them, but she taught me something crucial. Some fights you can't win loudly. Some victories require silence, patience, and perfect timing." Amara's voice softened. "Marcus Whitmore thought he'd won when he destroyed my reputation. He didn't realize I'd already won." The evidence was filed. The witnesses were ready. The trap was set. He just hadn't felt it close yet. She looked directly at the audience. "To everyone told to know their place, know it. Own it, document everything. Build your case. Wait for the perfect moment. Then strike with everything you have." The room stayed silent for 3 beats. Then applause erupted. Standing ovation. Not polite, genuine. Amara descended the stage, walked through the crowd. People reached out to shake her hand, thank her, tell their own stories of being underestimated. Outside, the Manhattan night glittered. She stood on the steps, breathed in the cold air. Her phone buzzed. Text from Rebecca. "Marcus just accepted a plea deal. 22 years, Amara closed her eyes, saw her mother's face, heard her voice. "Make them pay." "I did, Mama," she whispered. "I did." She walked down the steps into the night, her mother's briefcase in one hand, the future in the other. Some places aren't given. They're taken. And some justice doesn't come from courts or headlines. It comes from patience, precision, and one woman refusing to accept the place she was told she belonged. Amara knew her place now. It was wherever she decided to stand, and nobody would ever move her again.